If you are working for a narcissistic boss, whether they have narcissistic personality disorder or high narcissistic tendencies, this video is for you. I get so many questions about narcissistic bosses who are wreaking havoc on their employees, and yet to others, like the board of directors or the public, they come across as almighty heroes. And if you try to expose their bad behavior, there will be hell to pay. If a group of employees tries to band together to take them down, somehow they still manage to come out on top. And in this video, I will explain why this happens, and I will also describe why commonly suggested strategies to deal with a narcissistic boss will backfire and make things worse for you. And I will also give you a few self-protection strategies to preserve your sanity while under the reign of terror of your narcissistic boss. I'm Lise Leblanc. I've been working as a therapist for over 20 years and as a life coach for more than a decade. I post videos every week on topics related to mental health and relationships. And if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. I'm going to say upfront that my number one piece of advice for you if you're working for a narcissistic boss is to get a transfer. Switch departments or find another job if at all possible. Now, you may be thinking, why should I have to leave? I was here first. But the thing to remember is that the narcissist will not change. So you need to ask yourself if this is someone and something you want to deal with for the rest of your career. If getting a transfer or getting another job is not an option, then I suggest seeking mental health support, because the narcissistic boss will continue to demean you and do everything in their power to break you down mentally and emotionally. So, if you have a narcissistic boss, I'm sure you have already noticed that good, competent, respected employees tend to get the brunt of their destructive forces because they are seen as competition or as a threat, or because they are not feeding the narcissistic boss's need for admiration or attention. See, if you are not providing narc supply, you are useless to them. And the narcissistic boss will do everything in their power to replace you with someone that will be of better service to them. Someone who will supply them, serve as flying monkeys to do their dirty work, spread rumors and just be on their side when others try to stand up for themselves. So work becomes like a game of survivor. The narcissistic boss is getting off on manipulating and working to get people on their side, keeping some close while simultaneously tearing others down. They use fear, humiliation, a we-them mentality, and they send the message that if you're not on their side, you are not a loyal person and you become a target. And in meetings, they will devalue your work performance, your credentials, even your character. And oftentimes others sit idly by, too afraid to speak up because they don't want to be the next target. And if someone does speak up, things will get twisted and turned, and the narcissistic boss will always ensure that they have enough people on their team to shut you and any of your supporters down, make you look bad, and teach everyone that speaking up doesn't get you anywhere. And if you happen to be that brave soul that goes head to head with the narcissist, you end up in a sick game that usually leads to your ruined reputation, burnout, getting fired, or worse. Now, there's very little research on this topic, so my observations here are based on my own coaching practice and counseling people through these situations, as well as through my own lived experience. This is for educational purposes only, and it is not intended to replace professional help. So if you've watched any of my other videos on narcissism, you know that a key piece of advice I give anyone who is dealing with a narcissist, whether it be a parent, a partner, a friend, or a boss, is do not expect them to change. Do not continue in the delusion that the narcissist will sometime or someday change, because this is highly, highly improbable. So if you can get out, just get out. Unless you're seeking a soul-sucking experience, being in a relationship with a narcissist is not worth the damage it will ultimately have on you. However, let's say you are in a situation where you feel like you really can't leave, at least not right now. You will need to learn to preserve and protect yourself from your narcissistic boss. But before I give you these strategies, let me first tell you about some commonly recommended strategies that usually backfire and make things worse when you're dealing with a narcissistic boss. Number one, I've seen a lot of people recommend that you start complimenting your narcissistic boss, stroking their ego and feeding their delusional, grandiose sense of self to get on their good side and act like their narc supply. And I suppose this could work. And if this strategy feels right to you, go ahead and do it. But I don't recommend stepping outside of your own values system to do it, because there is a huge cost to this type of inauthenticity. So if someone is suggesting you deal with the narcissist in ways that feel wrong or unethical or narcissistic to you, don't do it. The other thing is, even if you did try to manipulate the narcissist, I can almost guarantee that they will out-manipulate you, because that's what they do best. That said, they do thrive on looking good. They see themselves as the hero, not the villain. So if you can genuinely emulate or take interest in their positive traits, such as maybe their charisma, or their ability to influence people or communicate well, then feel free to get on their good side. But also understand that this plays into being their narc supply, which is exhausting and a very difficult dynamic to break. Second commonly recommended thing is a technique called the gray rock technique. This method is somewhat controversial, and it can make the situation worse because most people don't have the stamina to implement it consistently. Basically, the gray rock technique involves a concerted effort on your part to not get emotionally entangled with the narcissist. You just basically become like a boring, indifferent, non-reactive gray rock. When using this technique, you would use short responses, be totally boring, closed off, indifferent, and show zero emotion no matter what they say or do. And the idea is that if you continue the gray rock technique long enough, the narcissist will get bored with you and move on to a different target. See, narcissists are addicted to drama and control, and they hate boredom. So if they can't stir you up, they may lose interest. However, what I've found is that using the gray rock technique doesn't work very well in situations where there is an actual power differential, like in an employer-employee relationship. If you are not protected by a good union, you'll probably get fired. And if you are protected, the narcissistic boss will make it their mission to make your life even more of a living hell. So as soon as you withdraw supply, the narcissist will escalate their efforts to push your buttons and to get you to take their bait. Because here's the thing, if you've been filling that need for them, you can't just cut them off their drug and expect them to move on quietly. They will get angry and target you even more. And another reason why this technique can fail is that it requires perfect consistency over a sustained period of time. One misstep on your part where you give them what they want, and boom, you're worse off than before you started. So there are times when this technique can work, but it more often goes off the rail. So where it can work is when you implement it right off the bat. Let's say you notice your boss is a narcissist right away and you go gray rock from the get-go. They may not take any interest in you and just occasionally target you as they do their regular rounds of attacks. Another way people might tell you to deal with the narcissistic boss is to fly under the radar. And if you can do this, bonus. But if the narcissistic boss has already placed a target on you, there is no way you're going to avoid them. They will keep coming at you. They're like a dog with a bone. Okay, so if these strategies don't work, what hope is there to survive a narcissistic boss? Okay, I will give you some strategies, but again, I want you to remember that my number one line of defense is to get out as soon as you possibly can. And if you can't for whatever reason, get mental health support from someone who understands narcissism to help you cope with the ongoing psychological attacks you will be facing. So it's important to understand there's no one-size-fits-all solution for dealing with a narcissistic boss or any narcissist for that matter. So number one, don't let the narcissistic boss rent space in your head. When you're not at work, protect your mental space. If you start thinking about something your boss said or did, ask yourself, why am I allowing him or her in my bed, in my car, in my living room, in the shower? Do your absolute best to keep this person out of your headspace when you're not at work. They do not deserve an extra ounce of your mental or emotional energy. I sometimes tell clients to imagine themselves suiting up in imaginary armor or some type of protective barrier before walking into the workplace, and then to imagine removing their protective suit after work, just to create that energetic boundary and to start training yourself to put a wall up and keep that wall up between you and them. Number two, put sticky notes and reminders in places that only you will see to remind yourself that this is not your fault, you're not the problem, this is an illness, or whatever it is that will remind you not to get emotionally hooked into this. And make sure you put these things in private places where no one will see, and don't make those notes personal in case someone does come across them. Don't gossip or get caught up in your coworkers' stories about the horrible narcissistic boss. Now, you may see this as a way of venting or, supporting each other, but it's actually sucking more of your energy. Instead, take your focus off of what you don't like, the boss's behavior. And, we all know it's happening. It's the same predictable pattern of behavior day after day. And so instead of putting your energy and focus on that and all these things that you hate, stop venting about it. Stop venting about it to your colleagues. Stop venting about it at home. And if you do need to vent about it at home, just put a timer on. Vent for that specific amount of time and then let it go. If something else comes up where you start thinking about something, just write it down on a piece of paper and see if you can make it wait to another time, because you just get caught up in this spin, this cycle in your own mind where they consume all of your time and energy. See, what usually happens is we unknowingly allow the narcissist to take over not just our work life, but our entire life, our entire self. And no one can protect you from this but yourself. Number 4, intensify your self-care practices, whatever that means to you. It may be long walks in nature, journaling, meditation, spending time with positive people. Number 5, start looking at this through the lens of an illness and as a predictable pattern of behavior. I used to work at a place, and every day colleagues would be saying, "Oh my God, can you believe what the boss did?" And I would say, yeah, I can believe it. This is how they behave all the time. So why do we act surprised and continuously mulch over the same stories over and over? Once you understand how the narcissist operates, then it's up to you to learn to protect yourself and preserve your energy, because they are not going to change. That's just the reality of the situation. So for more information on how to identify, deal, and cope with someone with narcissistic personality disorder or high narcissistic tendencies, check out my NPD playlist. And if you like this video, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel.